martial arts. I'm gonna be doing some figure skating, or you know, some business stuff. Who knows? But what's the official governing figure skating body? What is that called?
USFS, so United States Figure Skating.
United States Figure Skating. And
Organization.
so they've even come out and said in reports that only 2% of the people who watch figure skating across the board are of color. Um, Hence their lack of investment in the community.
Yeah. The accessibility before us, either you had very rich parents.
We good to go? We
Y'all
live?
ready? This
Oh,
water
yeah,
is
yeah,
for
cool.
you. I don't know if you want it.
All right.
I might
Hey, what's going on,
I might
everybody?
do a little while. I'm good right now. Thank
Godwin,
you.
one of your hosts, and this is the Daily Take with Take Detroit on the Take TV network. Today we got an amazing guest, but before we get started, we're going to go into our sponsor, Element. Brandon, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Co-host, and we are excited to have Element CBD Water as our official sponsor here at the Daily Take for Take TV. Quick note about Element CBD Water: it is 8.5 pH, and it also has 10 milligrams of CBD in it. Very healthy to keep you hydrated. It helps with anxiety, all sorts of issues that you might have. Definitely look into it. You can find all the information about it at www.elementcbdwater.com. Back to you, Godwin, in the middle of your sip.
I know my man. Lori, we were just getting into it. For those of you that don't know, the Take with Daily Take with the Take Detroit on Take TV Network is basically where we interview different guests, such as yourself, Lori.
Interesting people.
Interesting people and interesting conversations. That's the basis. And you were just breaking down an interesting conversation right before we went live in terms of the disparity. So the official governing body of figure skating, we're here with Figure Skating in Detroit, which you are the CEO, owner, proprietor, founder of.
I'm the executive director of Figure Skating in Detroit.
Executive director of Figure Skating in Detroit. Brought it here from Harlem. And you were letting us know of the disparities related with this industry as it relates to a governing body that only acknowledges that 2% of a particular group, people of color in this case, are fans of the sport. So why invest in infrastructure to reach out into those communities? Why put time and energy into those communities when it's only 2% of who we cater to begin with?
Yeah, so, there isn't like one person to credit for the accessibility now being a conversation at the table, but there are organizations like Diversity in Skating, the Alliance Group, that come together to have those kind of tough conversations and to make sure that their voices are being heard, and there needs to be more diversity, and it needs to be accessibility, and it needs to be more help. Now that it's on the table, this conversation is getting some attention because it's still behind it. But prior to figure skating in Detroit being in the city of Detroit.
Oh,
Where's your mic at?
Right here.
I can't really hear you.
where's
But you need to reset the pack.
Yeah, we need to reset it. I know we did that last time. We have some audio.
Just need me to take it off? You
You're
can hear
good.
me now? Okay. All right. Maybe it's the way I was sitting. I don't know. Okay. Do I need to start just
Yeah,
right from
let's
the
start
beginning?
again.
Okay. Go.
Yeah, just okay, copy that. So one of the most alarming things that has come to mind with me is how much data is involved within this organization. They have listings of household incomes of some of the patrons, with the average household income being somewhere around 75 to 199,000 within the household. Yet a heavy acknowledgement that only 2% of their clientele, constituents that they cater to are only people of color. So why put energy and invest in infrastructures of a demographic that isn't within our group to cater to begin with?
Right, great question. So it comes down to um, making it more accessible. People are not going to be interested in something that they feel isn't for them, something that isn't, directed toward them. And so making it more accessible, starting visually showing girls of color on the ice, people of color on the ice. And there have of late been alliances and organizations that really push for diversity in skating, diversity in those kinds of sports that have not been made accessible to people of color or marginalized the marginalized population. Once you make it accessible to them, for example, in the world of figure skating, they will come, they will do it, and they will excel at it. Is that so? That's really the big thing right there. And there's not one particular person to credit. There are a number of diversity and inclusion organizations around figure skating that have now been making it a conversation, bringing it to the table, and making people take notice. People like Elijah Baldy, who is a really, he was a national skater, and he still skates professionally, but he's from Canada. He's in Canada right now. I'm not sure if he originally grew up in Canada, but he'll tell you how, when he was skating in some of the competitions, he scored uh, harder. Things were made pretty difficult where people of color felt like they were behind a ball before they even laced up their skates. So yeah, so things are being done about that.
You're absolutely right. This is the perfect time, and I'm sure Brandon's got a question he's gonna ask you. But anecdotally, in 2017, within the restaurant industry, that was the point in time in which online orders surpassed over the phone orders. And so you see a lot of restaurants and places like that. They stopped taking orders over the phone. They went online only. That infrastructure. You didn't have to pay for the labor, for example. You could have a machine automated. And as of 2018, from reports from the Figure Skating Association, that has been the case. I believe, as it states, about 47% of all figure skating media is being consumed online through the internet, compared to 30% on TV and the rest of the other trickle down forms. So now more than ever is the time to get involved and make it accessible, put the information out there.
Absolutely, that's some great data.
Laura, you mentioned access being a really important part of figure skating in Detroit and the work that is being done and needs to be done. How was figure skating in Detroit has only been around for 2 years,
5 years in
5 years,
Detroit.
excuse me,
Yes, this was our fifth year.
fifth year. So after on year one, how was the organization received versus how it's being received now in year five?
Great question. So year one, we had a lot of interest, and the reason why is because we did what are called skating clinics
Mhm.
at Jack Adams Memorial Rink, which is inside of the Adams Butzel Recreational Center in the city of Detroit.
So this is in the
In
neighborhood,
the
an
neighborhood,
ice skating rink
yes, where
in the
no
public,
one knew.
because I didn't know before I saw it with my own
I
eyes.
didn't either. When I first found out about it, I was like, wait, and I had been there because I used to swim at
On the
Adams
other
Butzel.
side.
Yeah, rink. And the only ones that were really using that rink were grown men hockey leagues, and most of them were not of color, and they would come
Wow.
there because it was cheap.
Wow. So they were coming from the suburbs, I'd
Yes,
imagine.
yes, because there were no other indoor rinks in the city of Detroit. None.
Wow.
Yep. So year one, we had a couple of skating clinics, and they did great PR.
Mhm.
They introduced figure skating in Detroit at the 2016 tree lighting.
Mhm.
And Olympic gold medalist Meryl Davis
Mhm.
is the one who spearheaded really bringing the attention, getting people to take notice in the very beginning. So she's amazing. She was she still is one of our biggest cheerleaders. And through these clinics, people came out. They
Really?
brought their kids, brought their girls. They came out. We ran like maybe 3 or 4 of them before we actually officially started.
So I would imagine that's a little surprising to hear, because I would imagine that if people didn't necessarily know or have prior access to figure skating or know about it, they might be a little reluctant. They might be a little hesitant to jump in. But it sounds like that was not the case, maybe.
It wasn't the case because it was really targeted.
Really?
The news pieces that they did, the news story, basically announcing it at campus marches. Think about the tree lighting when you're down there is thousands of
I
people.
mean, that's great press.
Yes, great press, and it made them think, It was free of charge for the skating clinic.
That's always
Skates
a big
provided, yes, and you get to meet the gold medalists.
And y'all provide the skates.
Yes, still do.
So what's the overhead cost for a student, a young lady who wants to participate?
Yeah, it for us to from beginning to end for the program year, it's about $5,000 a girl. When you think about skating, because we custom fit her, they don't just put on just any old skates. We have top of the line skates. They're custom fit to our girls' feet. Then it's all of the equipment that goes along with it. Their skating bag, their soakers, their all of that. Their workout tracksuit. The costumes for the shows that you got to see, Brandon. All of that is covered. Now, families do pay a nominal tuition for the after-school program, which is called I Can Excel, and then we have a Summer Dreams program. But they pay a small tuition that's income-based. So it's based on what, where you fall. And we follow the free reduced lunch scale, the government scale. And then we scholarship girls. And we also, we have payment plans. We work with our families. We never turn anyone away because of financial needs.
That's
so
amazing.
That was a huge attraction. So and at that point, year one, probably more than 75% of our families that came, the girls had never been on the ice before.
Never.
Yep.
Wow. So y'all really introduced
the like you said, the PR, all that was the bomb because it was in the neighborhood. Have your showing and our coaches at the time were all women of color, and all of that made the people take notice. Like, wow, certainly made me take notice.
I bet. I mean, that's something to notice.
Yes.
It's quite noticeable.
It had nothing like that had ever been seen.
Wow.
I'm definitely not taking notice, but I want to give the audience some context as to why we're even discussing this with you today. So why don't you give us a little bit of backstory into why you chose Detroit as the home for figure skating in Detroit, and then ultimately why even figure skating? Did you grow up figure skating? Did you have a great auntie who had a magic figure skating shoe she gave you and sent you out here? But what ultimately led to what we have in front of us today?
Wow, Godwin, I wish I could say that that's how it started. So let me back up. So Detroit is the first and only existing chapter under figure skating in Harlem. So that's the parent, that's our sister organization they started. And they chose Detroit because people don't know this, Michigan is a big skating town. And a lot of Olympians come to Michigan to train, and they just love our indoor ice. It's unbeknownst to me at the time, it's where to be if you want to skate. And so that's how they selected us. And then 2016, 2017, Detroit was really on the upswing. There was so much going on in downtown Detroit, as you all know. And so it just hit all the check marks.
The timing was right.
Yeah, the timing was beautiful. And so that's how Detroit was selected. And then the gold medalist, Meryl Davis, is from Michigan. And so she, again, was a big cheerleader. She was supporting figure skating in Harlem. And so when they made the decision to start a new chapter, she was like, got to pick Detroit. So, influence is everything. And so that's how it came to be in the city of Detroit. And I did not grow up skating seriously. I grew up recreational style skating.
Ice skating,
yes.
Okay.
My parents would take us. It was a park I want to say it was Bow Duck. It was one of those parks on the east side of Detroit. And my mom for years would take us, and it was outdoor rink. My siblings and I, we would get out there on the ice and just have a ball. But at not one time did I think I could do anything with this.
Really?
And I remember watching Debbie Thomas on TV in the Olympics in the late 80s. And at that time, I was in high school. And I remember saying, wow. And I remember rooting for her so bad. She got the bronze, but it was one particular year or season, and she didn't make it. And I remember just feeling so defeated. I felt like a win for her was a win for me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't out there. But I never dreamt. Not to mention it was super expensive. There's no way we could afford that. I mean, the lessons, the skates alone and lessons are astronomical. So yeah, no magic skate, no magic auntie, but just a love for it. And once I got an opportunity as an adult to be a part of it, it caught my eye because I like figure skating and watch it and continue to watch it even as a young adult and a grown adult.
So it wasn't something that you like. Let's say you continued to do. You worked. You took on other professional careers,
Yeah.
and then it
don't
slowly
teach.
came back. Yeah.
But not on the ice. So I would, my previous life is in education. I'm a former high school English teacher and principal. And so a lot of people don't know is figure skating in Detroit is not just skating. We have a huge academic side. And it's about academics. It's about leadership. It's about entrepreneurs. Like to take pride in the fact that we're creating the next women leaders in the city of Detroit. And so that's what we do. And being able to get on that ice, lace up and get on that ice is a privilege because you are a young lady that's taking care of business in school and you understand, the power of sisterhood. We really talk a lot about philanthropy and giving back. So there's community service projects that the girls and families get involved in. And so it's so much more than skating.
So there's an instilling of values that
Yes.
appears to maybe even come before figure skating.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we interview all of our family, but there's a family interview that's done.
So there's an entire process
Yes.
to ensure that the young ladies fit culturally, that there's
Yes,
a culture fit and
commitment
a value
and from
fit
the parents.
and a commitment.
Yeah, that there's a commitment that you will be here, you'll be on time. You will understand that when your sister does well, we all celebrate. If your sister's not doing well, you're concerned. So those kinds of things are intentionally spoken about, taught, and modeled. So the girls have counselors, mentors, and again, being able to see their coaches. A lot of their coaches are women of color, young in college, even college age, and they get to see that. And our girls start as early as 6 years old. They get to see that, and they have so much belief in themselves. They're fearless because they get to see it in front of them, and it's not foreign.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Lori, what about the balance to strike? I mean, figure skating is a competitive sport.
Yes.
So how do you help the girls strike the balance between being competitive, and having that competitive drive and seriousness about excelling on the ice, but also maintaining an attitude of sisterhood and, comradeship and this sort of thing? Because sometimes things can get a little tight. Is it like that on the ice for your girls? And if so, or if not, how do you all manage it?
It definitely can get like that, and has been, and it's been off and on the ice, and I'll tell you what I mean. So definitely on the ice, we have some families that came to us specifically because they're girl skates, but she's been skating in communities where she's the only face of color, and it just breaks their self-esteem. And so when they heard about us, it was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you guys are here. And so that particular young lady can get out there and do all the bells and whistles, right? We have some girls that come to us and they just have raw talent. They're pretty new to the ice, but they took to it and are excelling. And so they have solos. They're doing certain things that some of the other girls just aren't ready for, and that's okay. And we try to talk to them about that. And so that's where that spirit of sisterhood and balancing that and understanding that we're gonna cheer for her liner for this particular show, or she's doing this, or the 5 of them, or the 10 of them, and the rest of us, we're going to cheer for them, and it's a
We're
win
going to
for
be
us
there in
all.
support. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to be their support. We talk about that a lot. We have what's called ice circles. So most of the stuff we do is going to have something to do with the ice, right? So we have ice circles, time where the girls get to kind of talk, speak from the heart about challenges they're facing in school or at home. And so we talk about sisterhood. We've had to have it where we had to have what's called a lemon squeeze, where two girls may not have been getting along, and we talk to them the importance about, okay, you have to support each other, or we have a social worker on our staff and that kind of thing to help us navigate through any of those issues. But I'm telling you, what's even just as big is the off ice opportunities. So what I'm able to do today, and again, thank you, Godwin and Brandon, for having me here today. But these kinds of opportunities where you get to be on camera and talk, we have certain girls that are just really very good representatives, and some of them get more opportunities than others to be on the news. We have people coming to me a lot wanting to do stories on us. They have done it, and sometimes other girls may get a little envious, like, well, how come you picked her, or how come I didn't get a chance?
Yeah.
And again, we talk to them about timing and building up your muscle for understanding what this is really about and how you have to earn certain privileges.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's just about really communicating with them.
So they're really getting life lessons here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question, and this is maybe a little scandalous. You mentioned
Okay,
that
I
when
like
you
a
were
scandal or two.
young, that your mother would take you and your siblings out to the ice. Who was the best skater?
Now, Brandon, come on now. You
I'm
know it was
just
me.
trying to say, okay.
Actually, now, seriously, though, brother, I only have one younger brother. The others are older than me. We were the athletes in the family.
Okay.
Along with my dad. We were very athletic. And so, yeah, the two of us.
So y'all were the top.
Yeah,
top
we
of the
get
top.
out there and do it. Yeah, yeah.
So I love everything that I'm hearing about it, and I'm so glad that you talked about Debbie Thomas.
Yeah.
A lot of people might not know Debbie Thomas was one of the first African Americans to win an Olympic gold medal within that event. And what else were some of her accomplishments?
On the ice, I believe after she stopped or retired from skating, I want to say, became a something in sports medicine,
Okay.
something of that nature.
My main question behind that is, do you find a need, or do you already have something like this of somewhat of a mentorship program focused on youth coming up and seeing people like them within the industry, especially one that isn't primarily known to house folks of color?
So you're saying, do we have mentors?
Yeah, you have a mentorship program, because when I Google Black figure skaters, I don't really see a lot of them, for example, right? And so,
you're saying mentors that come to speak with our girls, or do we have a program to help our girls become mentors?
Both.
Yes, and the answer is yes. So the girls that once they graduate out from high school, out of the program, they have an opportunity, because if you're going away to school, you really can't do it. But if you're local, or you once you finish school, college, and we're talking post secondary, they come back and mentor. We have one that was a high school senior. She wasn't in the program, but she started off as a counselor, and she comes back during the summer to work with the girls. And so there's that opportunity. So again, we're only 5 years in, so we haven't had that many high school age girls yet.
Through.
Yes.
Do you guys with me before my time doing Yum Village and working food? I had the opportunity to work within the marketing and development field for Mosaic Youth Theater.
I love Mosaic. My sons were in that.
I love Mosaic too. Some of the challenges that we faced around development had to do with the fact that within that nonprofit space, within that development space, you all are competing for the same dollars in a sense. The person who's from a disenfranchised community, upon disparate times and in need of a lunch meal, is in a sense vying for that entity, is vying for the same dollars as an arts program, or in this case as a figure skating in Detroit program. What are some of the things that your organization has done to showcase impact into the work that you're doing within Detroit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So impact is huge. So in 2021, yes, 2021, National Geographic did a story on us. Please make sure you
What?
guys look. Brandon is amazing. Every time I watch it, I tear up. So National Geographic reached out to me in 2020. So it was actually right before the pandemic because things really got iffy of how they were going to do this. They selected 6 women. So this is through Gal Gadot, the actress that plays Wonder Woman.
Right.
Her and her
Okay.
husband decided that they wanted to produce this show for National Geographic. They went over the world, around the world. They chose 6 women. One of them was one of our skating coaches because they found out about us. They did their due diligence. When I got the phone call, she knew a lot about us already. And
That's got to be
she
also
loved,
reaffirming too.
Yes, for
she
your work, yeah.
loved. So the whole thing was about it. The docu-series is called Impact. So it's about women that are making an impact on young girls and young women of color or from like I said, marginalized communities, so forth and so on. And so when you ask me about impact, our impact is seen when you see our girls, not just on the ice, but doing these testimonials where they talk about, well, I was really shy. I didn't know really how to speak in front of people. And since I've been in figure skating in Detroit, I've done this, I've done that. And my grades have gotten better because I know I have to have good grades in order to get on the ice. And I love my coach. I love Coach Nina. I love, Miss Pat. I love her. She helped me do this. Families will tell you how some of my staff have helped them with things that have nothing to do with what's on the brochure for figure skating in Detroit. So
Sure.
you know
So
that
it's deeper.
that's deeper, and that's impact. But National Geographic had us part of that, and we
Right.
opened up the docu series with being the first series, and ours was called Icebreakers. And our skating coach, her name is Cameron, Coach Cameron. If you ever see this, you know we love you. Talked about how and I've repeated this so many times how the main thing she wants to do for the girls is to have them believe that they belong there. You guys, don't let
Shout out to
anybody
Coach
tell you.
Cameron.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I have mimicked that same sentiment that I want our girls to know you walk into that boardroom and you're the only woman or the only woman, a person of color, you belong there. So it's not that mentality is not just for the ice, it's for your life,
Absolutely.
So whatever arena you walk in, and you could very well in 2022 be the only face of color or be the only woman of color. So you got a double whammy. You belong there.
So that's a good segue into this question. You know, Godwin mentioned early in the show that only 2% of viewers of figure skating are people of color. And I think there's obviously a correlation between that percentage and the number of folks of color who are participating.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about the legacy of racism, not only on this in this country, but in sports, and we look at the integration of a lot of sports. Football has been integrated, basketball has been integrated, baseball has been integrated, and we're seeing more and more black and brown faces in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
But in figure skating, I don't know that we're seeing the same amount of progress. How does an organization talk to young women about issues of race and racism in a sport that they love, are learning to love, and being groomed to become professionals in?
Yeah. I think it starts with creating more leadership, where the leadership looks like the marginalized community or the people that could be doing where it could be more accessible, but it isn't. I think when you have people who are decision makers, who are part of whatever leadership group, um, that their voice is being heard, that you get some steam behind creating more opportunities. So it really shouldn't just be figure skating in Detroit doing this. But right
Absolutely.
now it is. It is. And there's only figure skating in Harlem,
Mhm.
and figure skating in Detroit here. There's no other chapter. It's not like we got one all over the country and people are just doing it. It's getting people of color in those leadership and decision making positions and spots, and primarily those who are skaters. So it's okay if you're a non-skater. I'm a non-skater, and I'm talking about it, and I think people are taking note. But just think how powerful it could be if you were an Olympic hopeful, or you are skating nationally, or have, or some of the big names. Nathan Chin. Some of these people, and they're like behind you, and they're like, yes, because I don't know if I can say this on the air. I hope I can, but we needed the abolitionists, right?
Yes, we did.
We
Absolutely.
still
No,
need the
we keep it real.
abolitionists.
We keep it real.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
No.
We
Take
need
Detroit.
abolitionists to help us get our voices out there. But I
Absolutely.
think that's probably a drop in a bucket, Brandon. But I think it's got some merit to it.
And Lori, go ahead, guy. When
I was going to say it, and also is important for all to take. And I'm going to plug you too here on the importance of voting.
Yes.
Within this upcoming election here on August and ultimately moving into November, there is no better time than now to get down and involved with policy. Skating being one that would need some policy revision. I think it's historically, just looking it up, historically uh, exclusionists. You've got measured accounts of world famous athletes being denied entrance within this Olympic state of figure skating. And I don't think it makes sense that even now, the only person of color to make it gold after Debbie Thomas was in 2006. You can turn on any television and just look at people of color participating in sports to feel like that's a false entry right there.
Yeah. So you're asking me, what do I think can?
I want to make sure that you advocate the policy of, if we want to see change in this, it starts with us building our leaderships,
Yes.
but also getting involved within the infrastructures that build those leadership for us, such as
Absolutely.
policymakers, politicians, things of that nature.
Absolutely.
Unless you don't believe in that.
No, I believe in it. And I really believe that through our, how can I say this? So USFS, right? Putting people in positions um, where they're part, because a lot of what goes down happens in those rooms at USFS, right? Where they're taking note. They're hearing someone say, you know what, we need to be doing more. What else can happen? Who can we get to champion this? And so when you, like I said, when you get the right people at the table, then things will move. But you got to get them in those positions. And so getting hired for those positions and really making some change, that's where I think it starts.
And Lori, you came in as a program as an executive director, and you had
Correct.
someone to help groom you and help bring you along and place you in position. Can you speak a little bit about how that happened?
I would love to, Brandon. So first and foremost, Dr. Geneva Williams, who has years in public policy, and also, and I hope I'm correct when I say public policy, but she definitely worked in nonprofits. She was a voice in a lot of different medians around nonprofits and in education. That's how we met. I was her son's teacher years ago, and our paths crossed again once I got the job as program director. She was the Detroit leader, and I had no idea until they told me.
Wow.
And so when we talked, it was like, wow. She was like, Lori, I was Lori Johnson at the time. Lori Johnson, oh my God. And it was just a wonderful thing because she had such a presence. They picked her, Harlem picked her because of her ties with nonprofits and how she was able to get people to give money. Because once we started, there was no money. She had to get the money for us to be able to start our first program, which was our Summer Dreams program.
So there was no money immediately. Initially, there was nothing available.
When I originally got hired, they called and told me we're gonna have to pause, and we'll let you know because they're working on funding. And I was so devastated because I was so ready. I had just finished leading my last school, a charter school that closed down, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do next. And I didn't just want to.
You were in a principal capacity.
Yeah, so I was as a principal. Thank you. and I really didn't know which direction I wanted to go in. And people were like, "Oh, we need a principal here, we need a principal there," and I happen to have had a pretty good record in education. And so once they told me that they weren't going to be starting yet for a year, they said at least a year, I ended up going back and becoming a principal at a school. That was really nice, and I loved it. And I did it for almost a year. I got a call in February, just a cold day in February. And I answered my phone, and it was a gentleman. He said, "Hi, Lori. Are you still interested in figure skating in Detroit?" And I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Well, some great news. They're ready, and they still want you."
That's always
And
a good thing.
exactly, and they're going to be starting. I said, "When would it start?" They said, "We would need you May 1st." And
What
so
day was it? In
this was
February?
This was like toward
Okay.
the end of February in the
Okay,
cold.
She had a
I was
couple.
about to say that's what all Detroiters
So
say. It's still cold.
yes, and so I ended up having to leave a little early because the school year would be ending in June. But I left early, and it was the best decision I ever made.
No regrets. You never look back.
No regrets. Never look back.
That's
Because
awesome.
I was now living in my purpose. I was sharing with Brandon earlier that, when I was a teacher as well as a principal, I was always working for me to help them with this, and can we do this club, and can we have that? And most of the programs for in the school, the extracurricular was for boys or for kids at risk that may have had one foot in the penal system. Yeah, somebody who had 60 days absence, truancy. But there was not a lot for girls. If you weren't a cheerleader or maybe playing basketball, wasn't a lot. And so this created an opportunity. And again, once I found out it was so much more than figure skating, it was about, like I said, academics, leadership, creating leaders, and all of that. So,
What would you say is one of your fond you've been uh, working with figure skating in Detroit?
wow. Oh my God, I got so many, but I'm going to tell you the latest one that when we talk about impact, I was like, yep, check. So, Athleta, the brand of company, the
Yeah,
women's
the
coat.
clothing.
Yes.
Is that a women's
Yeah.
brand? Okay,
Mhm.
Athleta.
Well, you know what? I think they may have.
Something
Man,
like
Yeah, I think they
tank
may have a
tops in
small,
there.
but they're
Yeah.
known for their
Couple
women.
Yeah.
tank tops.
They might have a couple tank tops for the fellas.
Right. So,
Maybe.
I received a grant, um, applied for a grant, and I received a grant through Women's Sports Foundation. Turns out that the actual funding was coming from Athleta, and they had the title of it was The Power of She.
The Power of She.
Yes.
SHE.
Yes. Power of She. And they were putting together something for women who are creating impact in sports and wellness. So, it wasn't just sports, but talking about wellness, which we have one of our pillars is about mental and physical well being. And so, we do a lot with that. So, that's another story, a lot going on with that. But anyway, this is a situation where they selected 6 women out of all of these people. I was one of the 6.
Wow.
And that's because of figure skating in Detroit. And so they called me up. I had to do a photo shoot, and then I was part of a panel where myself and these 5 other women were being interviewed, and we talked about impact in sports. We talked about health. We talked about so much. And during the photo shoot, the girls were coming into the rink, and I was still full face of makeup. And one of my FSC girls, she's 11. At the time, she was 10 because this was last February or earlier this year, February. Yeah. And she tapped me. She said, Miss Lori, you don't need all that makeup on to be beautiful. And I was so taken aback because everybody else, a lot of people, including some of the parents, were like, girl, you look good. And ooh, you pretty. Where you going? And she quietly tapped me and said, you don't need all that makeup to be beautiful. You're beautiful without it, Miss Lori. And I said, you are right. I said, I can't wait to take this out. And so I explained to her why I had all this makeup on. But to hear a little girl acknowledge,
Right.
and she went on to say, you remind me of Beyonce. I look nothing like Beyonce, I wish. But just in her eyes, I was beautiful without makeup. And so when we talk about building and pouring into our girls from the inside out, you can't get better than that.
Right.
And it just made me feel really good. So
Children can be so precious. The youth, they can say the darndest things, right?
Yeah.
Can't
They
they?
be so blunt.
Well, I was going to ask about that because I can imagine y'all are probably cracking up on the ice as administrators and the adults because I bet the kids are cutting up. I bet they
Oh my
doing all
God.
kind of bloopers, having trouble with
Oh my goodness.
skates and all kinds of stuff all the time.
All the
What's one of
time.
the funniest things that's happened on the ice?
Our twins. So I don't know, Brandon, if you noticed, we had two
I
sets of
saw
twins.
those two cuties on the ice. I did.
Yeah. So
I saw the. I'm thinking of the younger set of twins. They're
yeah,
like really little.
yeah, the
Yeah.
ones that had glasses.
Yes, the ones with the
Mom tells us a story. They were preemies when they were born, size of your hand. They had
Oh
a
my
lot of
goodness.
challenges. Yes, and so they have already made huge, leaps and bounds because of that. And they have a lot. They're when I talk about fearless, they are fearless. Brand new to the ice.
Wow.
So so it's Melissa and Miranda. So one of them said, and this is how they talk. Coach Nina, they real like this ice. I don't think we can do this. This is really hard. And so Coach Nina was like, well, if you don't want to, push yourself, because you can do it. Explaining that we had other girls come that were new, because we're getting ready for the show. Oh, so if we don't do this, we can't be in the show. And then the other twin was like, that's her. I want to be in the show. And so she said, okay, she always bossing me around. Okay, Coach Nina, I could do it. And went back on that ice and did her thing. And you saw the performance.
And they really did do their
And
thing. They
did
were
their
spotlight.
thing.
They had the
Yes,
spotlight.
they got the spotlight. And so it was funny because they were very blunt. They was like, this is hard. And it
But
is.
I ain't trying to be left out the show either.
I ain't trying to be left out the show. So, okay, what I got to do?
Right.
Never mind, Coach Nina. I want to be in the show. So,
So you had talked earlier about working with your purpose, and working in purpose, but that can be difficult for some people when they're working within an organization. The internet and the world will have you think it that at 5 years old you got to go and start your own business. We all know that's not true.
exactly.
Can you kind of what's something that you might not think about working within an organization as you're also trying to work for your purpose or work within your purpose?
Are you saying from my perspective as a leader, some of the
Yeah, I mean, like what I've worked at a couple places. Like I worked at Target, I've worked at Quicken Loans, and while I'm not within those organizations now, I wanted to pursue my own things. I always thought that the culture that was created within those entities was groomed towards an infrastructure of recruitment. It's designed to keep people there. It's designed to help. Like if you want to grow and be the best that you can be, that environment is centered towards that, as long as you're being the best that you can be within that entity. Sometimes that can be difficult for some people who may not want to do that, but not everybody can be an entrepreneur. Some people might have to stay within an organization to work within their purpose, build up what they're trying to build up for their fulfillment within an organization. That's all. As someone who is finding purpose within an organization, what do you have to say about that?
So, one good thing is a number of my staff, my core administration team, actually have their own gigs.
So you guys is all working and working.
Yeah, we promote it. My marketing director has her own gig, and I met her because she had a shared co-working space, and I needed office space. And it's called Phomology, and I heard about her, and we had a little small office space there. Again, it's shared. And one day I told her I was looking for a marketing person. And I asked her, because I knew a lot of different entrepreneurs, women came in there, had space there. And so one day she called me, she said, Lori, I've been watching you and I've been reading up on the things you guys are doing. I would love to be a part and bring my expertise. So she still has her own business. And so we promote people that have their own thing but are able to bring their expertise to figure skating in Detroit and help us do what we're doing. And so we have some young coaches that are in college and are looking forward to doing some other things, and we want to help promote them, promote growth. And so for some, it could be longevity in our organization as even if they are entrepreneurs, and some will be able to go on and create their own thing, and their time with us will be up. So it just depends.
We spoke a little bit in the beginning of the show about the difference between figure skating in Harlem and figure skating in Detroit. They're the same program, but if I were to peep in on what's going on with figure skating in Harlem, and if I were to peep in on what's happening with figure skating in Detroit, what's the difference that I would see, or would there be a difference?
You would very little difference. Very little difference. One thing I know, Detroit, when we launched figure skating in Detroit, one of the major things that we highlighted that Harlem necessarily didn't necessarily highlight was the entrepreneurship piece. And so in our Summer Dreams camp, we do a whole camp teaching, marketing skills and coming up with your business plan and putting entrepreneurs in front of the girls throughout the year. And so that was something that we really highlighted that I think is specific to Detroit.
You mentioned transportation being
Yes,
a difference between the two cities.
it absolutely is. So in New York, they have, the subway, they have that type of transportation, and their young people are used to getting on and,
Jumping on and off is
going,
nothing.
going where
Yeah.
they need to go. And so for us, that could be a barrier for our girls, our families. If you don't have with it, and not just with it parents, I don't want to say it like that, but if you don't have parents that are, gonna go the extra mile and figure it out, if they have to work, they don't get off work to 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Who's going to get the girl after school to
Right.
the rink? And so sometimes it can be really challenging. And so we don't have a transportation budget like I got a big bus and can have somebody drive around pick up the girls at all the schools. And so that could be a
we
barrier.
may be able to help and look into some things
Right.
on that end.
Okay.
And
Yay.
also to that end, you and I have spoken in the past about the challenges of transitioning into an organization where you have to be the fundraiser.
Development is no easy game.
That was a huge curve for me. So
Did you have development experience beforehand?
No.
Okay, so
Now I'm gonna tell you, no. In fact, when my predecessor, Dr. Geneva Williams, the great, said it's on you now, I said, no, you said one more year. She's like, nope. She said, Laura, you can do this. And she said, I'm gonna tell you why. Because as a principal, you know, the budget, I didn't have to raise money like that. A teacher may have said, oh, we need, can we get the cheer coach wants to know we can fundraise, blah blah. And I'm like, okay, how much I need? We need $1,000. Okay, I could probably pick up the phone, call, and ask a few people for that. But my budget is about it's over this year is over $400,000 that I have to raise.
You're almost at $500,000.
Yes, yeah, I have to raise. And so in 2018, when I stepped into the ED position, and my president said I was ready, she said, I'm gonna tell you why. She said relationships. She said everybody talks about how they like you, and she said people are wanting to give and wanting to know more and wanting to get involved because of something that you're doing. She said you got the magic, and if you ever meet her, you could how you say somebody could sell sand at the beach. Like she's one of them
water
people.
to a well.
Water to well.
Salt to a
And
snail.
she really built that confidence up in me, poured into me, and I've never gone in the red. And I'm so
That's
happy.
amazing.
In fact, this year I raised almost 200,000 over what I needed to
In
raise.
excess.
Yes, I think I'm getting a budget this year, Brandon. I mean, a bonus this year, Brandon. I really do. So it's about relationship building. It's very difficult fundraising and asking people for money. And a lot of people I get in front of are multimillionaires, and they want to know, okay, you got to impress me.
Right.
Sometimes it can be very intimidating. And so, but thank God, things have worked out for me. I do the work though. I do the work.
So
I'm you to this. I'm gonna put those girls in front of you. That's what I do.
Hey,
That's perfect.
They're compelling.
Yeah,
They're compelling. The work you're doing itself is compelling.
thank you.
So before we close out, I'm going to ask you a couple things, right? All you got to do is just answer these real quick, and then from there we'll have one more word from our sponsors before we end for the show. Okay? All right. Would you rather be a dog named Killer or a cat named Fluffy?
A dog named Killer.
What did you do for your last birthday?
Oh, my kids took me bowling and out to dinner.
Have you ever broken a bone? And if so, how?
Never. I'm an athlete. Never broken anything.
Would you prefer to go out with a quiet or a talkative person?
Talkative.
What color is your toothbrush?
Purple.
I don't think I ever heard that one as like part of the random question said. I don't think I ever heard it. What color is your toothbrush?
Okay.
All right, so before we end off, we'll close with one more word from our sponsors here: Element Water, CBD, alkaline. And one thing I can say about this is, when drinking it, it's good water. You know, as someone who works in the culinary industry, culinary field, I personally have done a pH test on a lot of the water that I drink, all the way down the line. Even the people who get the Fiji, you guys are getting ripped off. You wasting your money. Don't do it. But this right here, from first sip, I can always attest to the fact that it was good water. Again, this has been the Daily Take with the Take Detroit show on the Take Detroit Network. I'm one of the hosts, Godwin, my co-host, Brandon. We've had the wonderful Miss Lori here with Figure Skating Detroit.
Figure skating in
Figure
Detroit.
skating in Detroit. Figure skating in
Yes,
Detroit,
thank
a
you.
subsidiary of Figure Skating in Harlem.
Yes.
And do you have any upcoming shows, any fundraising, any plugs that we want to make before we end off?
Yes, our Summer Dreams Camp is July 18th through the 22nd, and we would love to have people enroll their girls.
Summer Dreams Camp,
Yep.
July 18th through the 22nd.
22nd.
What's the best way to apply? Is there, or how does it work?
Yes, and we can always discuss that, but it's $200 for the 2 weeks. Skates included, all the equipment included, field trips included.
Sounds like a deal.
Yeah, yep. And they can go to our website, figureskatingindetroit.org, and registration's open now.
Okay.
Yep.
What about if people? I know you talked about fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
What if people want to donate to Figure Skating in Detroit?
Please, on our website, same thing. There's a big donate button.
Oh,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
a big one.
Yep.
Is it red? Big red
It's
button.
orange, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's bright.
Yeah,
Yes,
you gotta
but
make
they
it
can,
red. You know, people like to press red buttons.
Yep, that's
Orange,
true.
red,
That's true.
passion colors.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Figureskatingindetroit.org, both to apply for the Summer Dreams program, 18th through 22nd.
Yes.
$200.
I'm sorry, July 18th through the 29th.
July 18th through the 29th. That includes everything:
Free skates.
free skates, field trips, and experiences of a lifetime. If you
Yes.
want to keep this wonderful organization going as well, you can with your support on figureskatingindetroit.org. Click the big giant orange button that says donate and contribute. Again, my name is Godwin. This is Brandon. This is the Daily Take with Take Detroit on the Take TV